Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Yes, it's me, Graham Moore, otherwise known as Daddy Dragon. Please give me a 5B5 in the chat that you can see and hear me, because that's really important. I'm checking my controls and it says currently that you can see and hear me, but I'm just going to make sure. The next thing I will ask you to do is hit the like button. Really crucially important, especially on Rumble, more important than Rumble than anywhere else, but also on YouTube. And also, obviously, give me a love on Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe. Really, really important. So crack on with all of that. Now, there's a few things I'm going to be talking about tonight. One of them is this, which someone's just sent out. I had some more information about this before, a couple of years ago. But in effect, the government, so I'm going to send this document out. I'm going to share this and I'm going to get into the main part of the show, which should be quite interesting to you. Right? I'm just sharing that on there. Ratify the Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention 1989 ILO Convention 169. We ask the government to ratify ILO Convention 169 on Indigenous and tribal peoples and consider whether it would be appropriate to formally recognise the English, the Scottish, the Welsh, the Cornish and Manx as the indigenous people of Great Britain and its island, right? So just to make sure you all understand this, in effect, this was already ratified in two international treaties, well before that one was, and they can't get out of it. I think it was in 1984 and 1988. I'd have to go back over my notes, but I used that. It's actually on the Daddy Dragon website. Let me see if I can find it on the screen for you and bring it up, because I just want to make sure. Don't forget, by the way, I am massively on. I took a couple of really strong painkillers earlier on. When I say really strong painkillers, for the last 3 hours, I felt completely stoned. I was like, it's almost like you're floating. But let me just make sure I can show you this document. This is the one I'm talking about, right? So share this tab instead, right? This is obviously, it's on your screen as we speak, right? So I'm putting that on there. The people of England have the right to self-determination under international law. The right of self-determination, Article 1 text. International instruments, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the ICCPR, I use this in court as well, International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Article 1, all peoples have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social and cultural development. 2, all peoples may, for their own ends, freely dispose of their natural wealth and resources without prejudice to any other obligations arising out of international or economic cooperation based upon the principle of mutual benefit and international law. In no case may a people be deprived of its own means of subsistence. Right, so you're not allowed to interfere with farming in the way that our government is. 3, the states parties to the present covenant, including those having responsibility for administration of non-self-governing and trust territories, which is what England is, non-self-governing and a trust territory of the British Parliament, right? Shouldn't be, but that's exactly what's going on at the moment. So is Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, right? Because in effect they make the law. Trust territories shall promote the realisation of the right of self-determination and shall respect that right in conformity with the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations. There is only one vote that supports your English rights. Vote English, vote England, and take back control.vote, right? Which is one of our website addresses. So if someone was to put that in and try and get to it, you will see that already exists, right? So just to make sure everyone's got that. Does everyone understand what I just said? So I've just crossed from one thing to another thing. Don't forget, sharing is caring. The more you share, the more you care. Get this message out there. Share the YouTube channel, click the YouTube channel, click the Twitter, do whatever you can, because the only people getting this message out there is you. There's no one else doing it, it's just you. And we all work as a team. So this, what's on your screen now, the ICCPR and the ICESCR, sounds complicated, it's not, were both ratified by the British. Let me have a look. More watching on Rumble than YouTube. 130. Yeah, there will be. Rumble, we've got a massive, and it's growing. There's some awesome stuff I'm going to be doing with Rumble, which is why I had to cut it short last night, because Rumble are now talking to me about a few things, right? Rumble is going to be the number one platform, and anyone who's put the effort in, like we have in the last 3 years, you're going to see. So I think I can't remember what the actual figure is, but we're just below 10,000 subscribers. Because I've got 2 channels on there, but I'm just making sure. And let me tell you something now. When we take off on Rumble, when YouTube is taken out of the game and taken down, which it will be, because people will realise who's controlling it, what's been going on in the background, and there's a lot going on in the background. People like Andy the Gabby Cabby and LSB Studios and those that need assistance on Rumble will get every bit of assistance from us, right? But I can tell you, some people are going to be in for a big shock when they realise what Facebook and YouTube actually are, right? And when you look at other people, so I don't know whether this is going to come straight up or not. There's a particular person that I am going to be discussing on here, which is this one, right? So I'm going to share this tab. I think it's important to bring this up. I'm just going to, don't know what we can go into there. I think it was 0.6, roughly 6 minute mark. We'll go on to the 6 minute mark, roughly. And I will be playing it, not just yet. Now, this event that's being depicted at the moment, I was actually there. There's another video, if you go back on our channel, of Rupert Lowe giving the speech. I was there, or we was there, I should say. There was 4 of us representing the English Constitution Society and Party at the launch of Restore Britain. Because to us it means, especially if you have a good listen to what's going on, it means Restore England. Andy the Gabby Cabby brought this up, and he basically he's concerned that Rupert Lowe is talking, and a number of people have contacted me about this, right? So that's one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up. What you'll notice in that park, which by the way was St George's Park in Great Yarmouth, I'm going to explain a few things and talk to people about some things, and then what I'm going to do is talk to you about my new book that arrived today, right? Which was printed in 1788, and it's an original, and it's the Dog Bollocks. And I've been sitting there reading through it, and I'm not allowed to sit too long. So I'm sitting there thinking, oh no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go for a walk. I want to read my book. And then once I took the other couple of tablets, it was like, I can't read this much more. But anyway, I'll go into the book. So if you want to, there's some really great stuff. I've only just started skimping through it. I've got to read through the whole book. So when I write our book, right, and write our constitutional foundational course, right, which is the 2-year foundational course, I want everyone to understand that if you are not learned in this type of law, meaning constitutional law, where it come from, how it affects us, what it does, and the Englishman's rights, and what makes us so different to the rest of Europe. By the way, it says it in this book, right? And this was written in 1788. Why it's so important is because a judge who's never read the English Bill of Rights or studied the English Bill of Rights or the Glorious Revolution, the actual settlement, and there's 3 elements to it, or a solicitor or a barrister, right? They cannot call themselves a learned person in law. If you don't know the foundation and can't listen to them arguments because you've been told not to, because you're a Roman law communist, right? There is a big issue with you. And that is why we need to purge the judges. And it's something that Rupert Lowe needs to understand. So I'm going to play this clip of Rupert Lowe. Again, I just want to say something. They put out an email today. I'm not negative towards Restore at all, right? But any good CEO or leadership will listen to anyone, right? So even though the English Constitution Party, I'll give you an example, does not believe that every single black or brown person should be thrown out of the country or mixed race, right? In other words, it isn't about racial purity per se, right? But it is about taking the country back, especially from communists and those who are destroying our nation, right? But, and there is a big but to this, I listen to them people, and if they wasn't, some of them people in the background, if they wasn't so uneducated about the English Constitution and would listen to me for 5 minutes, they'd understand that restoring the Constitution of England, which is also shared by Scotland, would solve 95% of the problems perfectly lawfully, right? And in line with our constitution. And there is nothing that the European Convention of Human Rights or any international organisation can do about it, right? The same as Liberia has got a constitution that says you can only be a citizen of Liberia if you are a Negro. The English Constitution does not say that. It doesn't mention race. It does mention religion in various parts. And it states categorically that you cannot have ecclesiastical laws governing the nation. In other words, no religious fanatics can take control of this country. It is forbidden by the English common law constitution, right? And the written constitution and the codified constitution of the English Bill of Rights. So just to make sure everyone understands that, my issue, if I've got one, is that they sent an email out today, Restore, and said they won't be standing in the elections because we're concentrating on Great Yarmouth, blah, 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 and that's their strategy. It was originally their strategy. They've allowed people to think that they was going to be standing in council elections. They're too late for that, right? They registered as a political party too late. So you can register as a local party, as a national party, and as a UK-wide party, right? They was only ever registered originally and initially as Great Yarmouth first, right? And therefore, anything to do with Great Yarmouth for the elections, and I believe it expanded to Norfolk, they could have done that. Now, let me just make sure I'm clear on this. I've always said, and you can ask the English Democrats, you can ask Robin Tilbrook, you can ask the executive of that political party, exactly what Rupert Lowe was planning and doing with them people, I said to the English Democrats, that's what you should do. You need to concentrate on an area. You need to bring people in to that area. And then, like, when we go campaigning, all our people come from everywhere, converge, and then we go to work, right? That's how I know that they fear us, right? When I say they, I don't mean Restore. I mean, the political establishment don't like what we do. And they certainly will not like Rupert Lowe and Restore, and especially as it's being depicted, which it is, that it also means restore the English Constitution, restore England, restore Scotland, restore Wales, restore Northern Ireland, and restore Cornwall, right? I consider that I am part of that party. I'm not a normal member, just say so people. I think I've already said to people, I am a different type of membership. It is not about me. If they never spoke to me, if I sent them an email and they don't speak to me, I consider a number of things. One is that they're very busy. And two, it's not about me, right? I don't consider that to be a slight on me personally, right? But if I ever consider it's a slight on England and our membership, that'd be a different matter, because then I have to stand up just like I did before and protect the membership. Because if some of them members and they're very, very, very good candidates, put themselves forward, and all of those ones are singled out and not approved and not allowed to be a candidate for Restore, that's a different matter, right? So just to make sure I'm clear on that, we're not folding up in the English Constitution Party, and we have a constitution. The English have a constitution. We exported it to the United States of America with our language. There's a couple of things that Rupert Lowe has said in this interview, and I think it's the so much through the institutions that he doesn't get this, but he will. Remember what Enoch Powell said at the end. They will. They will learn, right? Well, people are learning already that they have a constitution, right? And I've heard conversations where people have started to say we do have a constitution. So I'm going to show you this little clip. And again, Andy the Gabby Cabby, very supportive of the English Constitution Party. Come out there and done stuff, spent his own money trying to get our seminars out there. Willsey is a lovely fella. I can tell everyone out there now, I absolutely would not kick Willsey out of England or Great Britain. And many people like him are culturally English, right? If you're a second generation immigrant, you could not be a member of parliament. You could not be a councillor. But it is the strength of character of a lot of these people that they understand that and still say, I love England. It's not about me, right? That's all I'm saying to you. So just remember where I'm coming from with that.
The state has become the enemy of the people. It's basically supposed to be serving us, but it's become omnipotent. It's become far too big.
And in terms of this country, a lot of people say that it is a very corrupt country. Back in the day, we used to prosecute people for corruption and for their complicity. Do you want to see mass prosecutions of people who have been corrupt in government and hurt a lot of people?
I do.
Right, so let me stop it there. I'll probably go back and run the old interview. Did we used to prosecute you? Yes, we did. And we had grand juries in this country. They were abolished, I believe, it was either 1929 or 1933. And it was part of the slow march through the institutions and a part of the attack on the English Constitution. So people, if you couldn't go before a grand jury, and a lot of these solicitors, barristers and bullshitters out there say, oh, it's because it was being abused. No, it wasn't. It was doing its job. And this process is exactly what we need to bring back when we restore the Constitution.
I do. I think you're quite right. I think Britain I think our judiciary's gone off the rails as a result of what Tony Blair did. I think the legal profession is making far too much money on the back of productive Britain.
Well, let me
I think
stop
the
you there.
state has become the
Let me stop it. Let me stop you there. There's a number of things he's just said he said so much in there. Listen, I genuinely believe Rupert Lowe is a good guy, right? If he's a CEO, he'd listen to us, because good CEOs will listen to something even they don't like it, and you've got half the chance of changing their mind because they just didn't know the detail. Once you explain the detail to them, all of a sudden the bits start going into position, right? Making sure you're aware of this. This rot started well before the Constitutional Reform Act of 2005. Rupert Lowe is being misinstructed by barristers and, I may add, David Starkey, right? And the problem is that Rupert Lowe seems to listen to people that have come out of universities. They're probably the worst type of people you can listen to, because it all started through the slow march through the institutions. Now, why am I saying this? If he's a farmer, like he says he is, right? When I say if, what I mean is, if you add, and Jeremy Clarkson is probably the biggest example of this, do you just go and pluck someone to run a farm that's just come straight out of uni, or do you take someone who has been brought up on a farm, someone who understands farming, is ingrained in them, like looking at a stick of rock and you look down that rock and it says farmer, right? That's a bit like me. You look down that stick of rock and it says England, and then underneath it says Constitution. I understand England and the Constitution, and I do not deviate from that, right? That's why there's some people out there that get so much wrong, because they deviate without having the knowledge, right? If you concentrate on one area, and let me tell you something, the common law constitution is a big enough 1100-year-old period of legal history to understand. Now, Rupert Lowe is he keeps referring back to that. That was a major issue, I agree. There are other major issues that did a lot more fucking damage than that, and it was nothing to do with Tony Blair, right? It was to do with the Fabian Society, I agree. And Fabianism is Toryism, right? Again, the London School of Economics is an absolute 100% Satanist fucking university, right? And so is Oxford, and so is Cambridge. And let me just make sure I'm clear on this, so is Eton, right? Just to make sure you're all aware of it.
the enemy of the people. It's basically supposed to be serving us, but it's become omnipotent. It's become far too big. It accounts for 50+% of GDP, whatever it is, directly or indirectly. I don't think we know the true figure, but it's huge. And as we know from Soviet Russia, ultimately, sort of collectivist societies fail. They don't survive. So what we've got to do is return power to the individual. If you look at the American Constitution, it always returns power to the individual states and to the individual person. And it
Right, just to make sure I'm clear on this, what he's now saying is what I say every time I talk about America: the United Independent States of America. That's what they were. And each independent state had its own constitution, and then they had a common law Supreme Court, right? Even the United States has got one state that is out of kilter and out of sync with the rest of the states, and that is Louisiana, which is a Roman law jurisdiction. It's important because in this book it tells you, right, the difference between England and Europe. And in this book, which is from 1788, the guy says the difference between the English and England and the rest of Europe is they have the common law. They do not have Roman law. Roman law is the enemy of the people, right? Scotland is a Roman law jurisdiction. Wales is a common law jurisdiction. Northern Ireland is a common law jurisdiction. Southern Ireland was a common law jurisdiction that's been taken over by administrative law, which is the European Union, right? The people in Scotland, meaning the SNP and others, want to exit the Union of Common Law Nations and enter the Roman Law Union of the Europe, right? That's not independence. That's just swapping out one administrative law system for another, right? So the common law system is the best social justice system in the world. It was exported to America. Some things that Rupert Lowe is saying now today are wrong, right? He says that the United States of America broke away from us and the English. They didn't. They broke away from the British system of governance. Within 70 years of the British Parliament coming into existence, the English American colonies, dominions, right? I apologise. Dominions, because they're different to a colony, were attacked by the British, right? So they stood up on the other side of that pond and said, we want the same rights as an Englishman. And the English in this country agreed. In 1819, when the working class of this country stood up and said, we want the vote, we was murdered by the British state. They drew cutlasses and over 20 of us was killed at Peterloo, right, including a baby in arms, just for our defenceless men and women and children, right, were killed by the state just because we asked for the vote. So I want everyone to understand where I'm coming from here, right?
Takes it away from the federal government. That was the brilliance of the American Constitution. And let's face it, they broke away from Britain. They were our colony, and they were very...
They weren't our colonies, right? They was our dominions under English law. The British were the ones who made them colonies, right? It's really important that people understand it's about centralisation. If you colonise somewhere, you are centralising everything. That's not the way it operated in America, and it was not the way it operated in England. So what Rupert Lowe should know is Gloucester was autonomous under the English system, not the British system, the English system. To a degree, it had to stay within the English constitution, but it returned parliamentary candidates, etc. But they all understood what the English constitution was, unlike today, right? Norfolk or Norfolkshire is one of those places, right, that people need to understand. And again, all the shires in England were independent, right? That's why you have local councils. That's why you have something called bylaws, right? So everyone should understand. If you don't understand the basics of how England was, now I'm not having a pop at Rupert Lowe. He is a product of the British state education system and private education system, but most importantly, he is a product of the slow march through the institutions. The difference with someone like me is I have been reading law so long on the Constitution and the history of it that I am presenting it in the way that it should be presented to people. That is what's missing from his advisory team, right? It is completely missing from his advisory team. Even if you was talking and there was 4 or 5 of them saying I'm wrong, right? I will guarantee you Rupert Lowe would say, have you got evidence in that? And if I picked up a 300-year-old book and said, yes, I have, right? If I showed him directly the original English Bill of Rights that states that Parliament is not sovereign, right? He would accept that and say, he would act like a judge, but not be a judge, and say, actually, what's being said by Graham Moore is correct, right? And he will start to understand that. And I'm not saying people in universities that everything that they have been taught is wrong, right? There is only one. Mathematics doesn't lie, right? So mathematical degrees, and I'm particularly insinuating the Tom Denning, who was a working class judge, was a top mathematician, right? That was fantastic, right? Because he used algebra. That's why they said he was such a good judge. He took complex problems in law, put it into algebra. This is how clever he was. And don't forget he's working class, right? The working class are far more clever than the aristocracy. Most of them are fucking inbred, right? And I don't mean that being deliberately rude. I'm just telling you the fucking truth, right? All the kings and queens of England and Europe are fucking inbreds. That it doesn't do anything for their IQ, right? So just to make sure everyone's aware of that.
High-minded, decent people. I mean, if you look at Thomas Jefferson, Madison, Adams, Hamilton, all these people,
they were all fucking English.
They were brilliant, and they were very good people. And we need to look at.
So just to make sure I'm clear on this, when you say brilliant, that's another term for English, right? It's a synonym.
At the American Constitution, it was undermined by Roosevelt, who basically amended the 9th and 10th Amendment in the 30s when they had the economic downturn, which undermined some of the structure of the American Constitution. As a result, the federal government has grown like a weed. But so what?
And I think it was Amendment 17. There was another amendment that they made, particularly in relation to banking. So the banking system in England, the Americans mirrored it, right? So if you go out to America when they first started the Dominions, what you'll notice is that they could all make their own dollars and say, I don't know, Alabama or whatever the state was. They used to print their dollars and it would have their initial on it. So you knew that them dollars come from that state. But they also had all different currencies and different ways, and they had different ledgers. It was thriving. What severely disabled the English, that then the British, in effect, colonies, and they continue to be, because after 1860, the North had won, and it wasn't about slavery. They got central control and federalisation, but they federalised the banking system, and that is where the issue is with America, and the same in England.
What we've got to do is, we've got a great country. We have I think we've got the best people in the world. We're losing a lot of them, they're leaving. And a lot of the young people say to me, why is it that you reward indolence and you punish enterprise? And it doesn't appear to us that people who work hard and actually contribute and pay tax, they're being penalized, and welfare is being given to people who do nothing, in fact, less than nothing. And I think we've got a whole culture of people who are pork barreling a ridiculous living on the back of the productive people. So a lot of them have said, I'm not going to build my career here. I am going to leave. And they are leaving. So we don't want to lose them.
Just to make sure everyone's aware, I have literally paid millions in tax. Millions in tax, but certainly hundreds of thousands in national insurance, right? A communist system, there's only one way, and that's down. It's a downward spiral, right? I am absolutely opposed to communism and socialism in the way that it is being superimposed upon us, right? And it is being superimposed upon us. And I'm going to get to my little book in a minute. Does everyone want me to read some passages out from my little book?
Those people, they are the future.
I think that's a very good video to go over, because it gives you an overview of exactly where Rupert Lowe is coming from. I love it because he talks about constitution, he talks about law, and he points out the problems. Now, going back to the whole financial situation once again.
Right, so what I'm going to do now is stop sharing that and go back to some other bits, right? So there's a number of things I want to say. This is not about me. This is about England. We are for the English, right? We have to be assertive, but not violent, right? And there's something else I'm going to talk about. I'm held in confidence from an external organisation to England. That's the only way I'm going to say it, right? Where I had a long conversation the other day. I have viewed and seen a 51-page document that highlights the fact that somewhere in the region of 60% of regime changes that are done non-violently, right? And this document compiles a number of studies. They last, right? And I'll give you an example of that: Glorious Revolution. Even though 100 people died, but it was a battle, it didn't touch the people. In terms of the difference between the Glorious Revolution and the English Civil War, only 100 people died. That's why it's always, they say it was a non-violent revolution. In the greatness of that revolution, it was non-violent, and it has lasted until now. And that was the Protestant settlement, and the settlement, the Acts of Settlement, and the Bill of Rights, etc. Another person to mention is Mahatma Gandhi, right, from India. He was passive towards the British, and the British didn't like it, and that's why they started shooting them and causing problems and bombing them, and the British was using violence against them. But there were so many of them that was non-violent pushing forward. Now here's the key point: that of the violent regime changes, and this is crucial for people to understand, of the violent regime changes, only 25% survived after a number of years, right? So non-violent revolution is much preferred to violent revolution. And you must understand that the British have disarmed the English against our Bill of Rights. Just like we should never have gone into the EEC or the common market, whatever you want to describe it as at the time. It was always about the European Union and taking away our rights and surrendering our sovereignty and liberties, right? Even though Roy Jenkins from that video I showed you the other day, by the way, he was one dangerous man, right? There's things that he did in the background that people don't realise. We've seen all this, right? So I just want to make sure that everyone understands. I do not propose violence. I do not incite violence. I am very frustrated. I get very angry at what I am actually seeing them doing to us. But the only time, and the English are superb at this, when we win is when the middle class, in effect, and the working class come together against the ruling classes, right? That is the only time we win. And what the ruling classes, or the British establishment, whatever the British regime, whatever you want to describe them as, right? What they do is split the middle class from the working class, right? And anyone who says there is no class system in this country, what a load of fucking bollocks, right? That's like saying there's no caste system in India. Of course, there is there is a class system in this country, right? But the intermingling mainly goes on between the working class and middle class, right? And sometimes it's aristocracy. That's why I have queues of like posh birds at my door. They like a bit rough, don't they? Not really. I'm only joking. It's the drugs, right? So that's the main thing that people have to they have to understand that, right? Now, again, I'm going to read you out some bits and pieces. Let me put this out there with that. So don't forget, hit the like button. And again, I would love to have people on this show, but it's very difficult because we're about England and most of them have been indoctrinated, right? So the people I get on here, and I am grateful for those who have a platform on Rumble or even Facebook, right, which I'm banned from, right? Think about this. I don't incite violence. Why do they ban me from all these platforms? What is it that I say that they're banning me for? Well, you should all understand that COVID, they banned the doctors that started telling you the truth, right? and especially those doctors that understood the benefits of nutrition. Doctors are not taught about nutrition, and you get illness, right, and sickness. Lawyers and solicitors and judges are not taught about the Constitution, and society becomes sick, right? You're seeing that. And what I do is communicate in a way that the average person can understand it, right? So I'm going to go back and look at a couple of things here. And so this book in particular, so again, just to make sure everyone understands what it is. And again, this is an original. I have to be careful because what I don't want it doing is falling apart. This is an original, right? So the Constitution of England, or an account of the English government, and it tells you in there. It's a great read, right? I've been literally in this. So there's a couple of bits that I want to read out to you. But at page 213, bearing in mind how old this book is, and there's some other things I'm going to say, right? He says, the author, God forbid, however, that I should mean that the people of England are so fatally tied down to inaction by the nature of their government that they cannot, in times of oppression, find means of appointing a leader, right? Well, the British oppress me and they oppress us, right, as a team. And you're pushing forward now. You're getting the message out there. This is what's actually going on, right? But this book, there's many things that it talks about. No, I only meant to say that the laws of England open no door to those accumulations of power which have been the ruin of so many republics that they offer. So, in other words, they're saying that English law is the foundation of any English common law, and the Constitution is the foundation of any good republic. It's when you start to attack that Constitution, you destroy the republic, and that's exactly what's going on in America. That's why I've always said to you, you may not like everything that's going on in America at the moment with President Trump and his team and what they're doing, but I can honestly swear to you, they are constitutionalists. And as the enemy has attacked the Constitution, the means in which they did it by subversion, you haven't seen that. And in the same way as you haven't seen what they've done in England properly, right? It's people like me showing you and telling you, right? To get from A, B, C, D, E, F, G and target, right? You're going to have to undo some of them things, but it's going to start looking like you're the nasty guy, even though they're the people that have done these things in the first place, right? And that's the main thing that people really need to understand. There's so much of this book that is fantastic, right? So again, the Constitution of England, page 106. Written in the history of the common law, right? So I'm just going to make sure that you understand this because I'm trying to get this book. The spirit has been preserved even so much more in modern times when we peruse the many paragraphs which Judge Howe, this is obviously, and by the way, Judge Howe, carry on, written in his history of the common law to prove that in a few cases in which the civil law is admitted in England, it can have no power by virtue of any deference due to the orders of Justinian, a truth which certainly had no need of proof. We plainly see that this Chief Justice, who was also a very great lawyer, had, in this respect, retained somewhat of the heat of the party. Even at present, the English lawyers attribute the liberty they enjoy, and of which other nations are deprived, to their having rejected, while those nations have admitted, the Roman law. right? So now think of Scotland being a Roman law jurisdiction, and then think of Louisiana in America being a Roman law jurisdiction. You invite a cancer in, right? And we, as England in particular, and Wales and Ireland, we were separate. We were of Europe, but not part of Europe, right? So we created a judicial, the ultimate social justice system, which is the common law of England, right? Even at the present, the English lawyers attribute of the liberty they enjoy and of which other nations are deprived. I've just read this out. I'm going to carry on. So they're having rejected, those nations have admitted the Roman law, which is mistaking the effect for the cause. It is not because, so again, which is mistaking the effect for the cause. This is a really clever guy who wrote this. Don't forget, this book was written in 1788 and it's an original, right? It's not because the English have rejected the Roman laws that they are free, but it is because they were free, or at least because there existed among them causes which were in process of time to make them so that they have been able to reject the Roman laws, right? So because we had the English common law, we could reject the administrative system of law. And that's what they're trying to impose upon us now. That's why Keir Starmer is trying to take us back into the European Union by stealth. Everything has been done on a lie. And the European Union is not Nazi, right? Even though the Nazis were socialists. And just to make sure you understand that, when I was 12 years old, I was reading that, right? I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a communist, right? Like before, when I went and we're trying to get the video of it, when we went to watch Jeremy Corbyn when he wouldn't talk to any of the press, we actually went to one of these seminars or whatever you want to describe it as in a theatre in Colchester, and we went up to the stage and asked him, are you going to allow English independence? And he leant down, he was talking to us, he was on camera, and he said, absolutely not. England is to be regionalised. What he meant is England is to be destroyed. So the communists, the Marxists, the fascists all want the same thing. And that includes people like Sir Oswald Mosley. Mosley was a Labour MP or a Labour MP and minister for 12 years before he created the British Union of Fascists, right? So you need to understand that the British Union of Fascists and Oswald Mosley, right, were National Socialists, right? It's socialism, communism, Marxism, it's all the same thing. It oppresses and suppresses us, and it removes the common law of England and puts in place an administrative law system, right? What the Nazis did was they destroyed the German constitution and the German form of common law, and the way they did that was creating enabling acts. And what we've done is gone right the way back through history and are showing people, and we can show people like Rupert Lowe, why you need to abolish, make void all of these laws. You do not repeal them. If you repeal them, you make the same mistake that you already made. This is the bit that I don't get. Rupert Lowe is a very clever man. Jimmy Goldsmith, a very clever man, right? There's no doubts about that in my mind, right? I'm not doubting their leadership, etc., but I am doubting their counsel, right? And all I'm saying to you is this, quite simply, that the European Communities Act of 1972 was unlawful because it was ultra vires. It went against the Bill of Rights and the Supremacy Clause. Therefore, it should have been null and void. And the people at the time, if they was told the truth, would have overwhelmingly voted against it, right? But they were lied to by the media. People keep talking to me about direct democracy. I have not got a problem with direct democracy. What I've got a problem with is the media. because people are going to be conned and will vote the way the media tells them to vote, right? So the way our election systems work and why they're in place, and if you read Ashby versus White 1703, the judge Chief Justice Holt tells you that in that full judgment, right? Not the shit you see online, right? The edited version by the British, the real version from one of the drafters of the English Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Rights. The man knew what he was talking about, right? He was a proper lawyer. He was a learned man, right? I have no doubts in my mind about that at all. And he was staunchly anti-slavery, right? It was some of his judgments that took us all the way to the English common law saying you can't be a slave in England, right? It was the English common law that stopped slavery, not the British Parliament, right? So just to make sure everyone's aware of that, go and read the memoirs of Granville Sharp. The major thing that I'm saying to everyone now that they must listen to is that Chief Justice Laws explained to people in that judgment why the electoral system was the way it was, and that is because at the time that it was created, there was no technology that we had today to give you direct access to our law system. So we appointed representatives, right? That appointment of representatives has now been corrupted with a whip system, which is against the English Bill of Rights, because it interferes with the proceedings of Parliament. And two, most importantly, or equally as important, I should say, it party politics. That should not be part of our that is forbidden, right? And it has corrupted the system. And once you get corruption in the system, and especially with a slow march through the institutions, every part of our institutions are corrupted. By the way, when I read this 51-page document from another group of people external to England, there is a whole plan and strategy for how you deal with them institutions individually, non-violently, right? So there was another particular thing that I wanted to show you. And I'm hoping I've still got it on there somewhere. If I haven't, let me see if I can find it. Not that one. Let's have a look at that one. Not that one. I wonder where it is. I would have to go back on it. But I just want to say there's plenty of good people out there, including, I may add, let's see if that's it. Heads in Swivel. I think it was this one, but I'm not sure. It's a 12-minute one. I think it was, if this is the morning walk. Now, I used to do a morning show and drive to work and talk to people, right? And people loved it. People who just become retired used to get up and watch me because they miss working and all that, right? And I used to go through the traffic and I didn't realise how many people were watching me because people used to bib in London traffic because I drove past them when I was live, right? It was weird. And various other little bits. But I want to make sure that everyone gets this. So I'm going to bring this one up. And just hit that one and see if I can run this, and then I'm going to show a couple of other little bits. Hopefully you can hear it. Oh, okay. This is England, by the way. These kids are walking towards the camera. Look.
Morning, everybody. Let's thin this out a little bit. Better. It's a little bit windy here today, so I apologise if there's any wind noise on the video. Been trying to look for a spot to get out of the wind so I can make the video, but it doesn't seem to be anywhere today. It's a little bit murky. It's give showers and high winds today again, so it's a magpie. Yeah. Right, so amazing developments from yesterday. Dino Baines shout out. It's pushed the channel over the 8,000 subscriber mark. We're well on our way to 8,500 now, which is just amazing. It's unbelievable.
Right.
And yeah, and you know what? I want to thank all of you, every single last one of you.
Just to make sure everyone's aware of this, we can't do this without you. The audience is crucially important. And when you turn up at events and do what we're doing, we're non-violent. The more of us turn up, the more they understand that there is a serious movement behind this, right? But that wasn't the video that I wanted to show you. Let me see if I can go and find it. It's really important because I read it and said this geezer is absolutely bang on the money, right? And it's exactly, let me just have a look at this. I think it's this one, but I'm not sure. I think it's this one.
Morning, everybody. How you all doing? So I was sent this video by some of my subscribers. They wanted my opinion. It's by Danny Tomo. It's after he went to the far left rally where they were all organising, where everybody came together, apparently. People want my opinion on it. People want my opinion on the United Kingdom march as well, that's coming up in May the 16th, I believe. So this is my honest opinion. Now, I've got to state for the record, obviously, from the outset, I've got a bias in this because, obviously, I've had a bit of unpleasant interaction with some of the organisers of this march, let's just say. So regarding that, regarding whatever I did feel about it, I won't be attending that march down in London. Now, they won't care because I'm just one person who gives a shit about me. I'm insignificant. But I won't be attending on principle because of the way people have acted. I think the mask has been well and truly been ripped off certain people, and I can see behind them now, and I don't trust them. They've claimed to be something they aren't, and that just really puts a bit of taste in my mouth. But talking about Danny Tomo's video, because in the video he's talking about organising and sending out a message. Right, okay. Just from the outset, right? Do you really think now is a time to be talking about organisation when you've literally got, was it 2 months, a month and a half before the actual protest?
I'm just going to say this to everyone, right? This video is fantastic. He's almost took every word out of my mouth and said it, right? But what you've got is someone who's been there, seen it and done it. He's looking and he can see wrong uns, right? The same as me. It's not some special superpower. But it's someone who is capable of critical thought to look at what people are doing and saying this is not right. Right? Just to make sure you're with me on it.
Best. And you're talking about organisation now, about logistics, about organising coaches. Don't you think that this should have been organised straight after the last United Kingdom march? You should have been getting in contact with certain groups up and down the country and liaising with them and saying, right, guys, we'll form the infrastructure for you guys to talk to each other. for you guys to organise. We'll provide that. Yeah? We've got an old saying in the military. Piss poor planning, piss poor performance. And that's kind of what this is. Piss poor planning. And you're going to produce a piss poor performance. So you've got that. You're talking about logistics. You're not taking into consideration that you're trying to compete with the far left, who are very highly organised. And not just highly organised, well funded. These people don't have to pay for their transport. They've got unions, they've got certain charities and organisations that fund their logistical movement. They fund their coaches. So all they have to do is put out on a Facebook group, be at this place at such and such a time, and we'll bus you down to London free of charge.
Oh, bollocks, I fucked it up. Just to let you know, what they're actually doing is recycling your tax money, right? They money launder. And that's another thing that I look at and can work out. And yet, for some strange reason, people like, I don't know why, it's a bit like me talking to farmers down here. And I've said to them, you're too ready to accept that everything a policeman tells you to do is lawful, right? In other words, they're too law-abiding when the police, in effect, are not the ones who are law-abiding. But let me get back to this position. Hopefully, I've got roughly the right...
So all they have to do is put out on a Facebook group, compete with... Yeah? We've got an old saying. Before... Do you really think now is a time to talk about organisation when you've literally got, was it 2 months, a month and a half before the actual protest? And you're talking about organisation now, about logistics, about organising coaches. Don't you think that this should have been organised straight after the last Unite the Kingdom march? You should have been getting in contact with certain groups up and down the country and liaising with them and saying, right, guys, we'll form the infrastructure for you guys to talk to each other, for you guys to organise. We'll provide that. Yeah? We've got an old saying in the military. Piss poor planning, piss poor performance. And that's kind of what this is. Piss poor planning. And you're going to produce a piss poor performance. So you've got that. You're talking about logistics. You're not taking into consideration that you're trying to compete with the far left, who are very highly organised. And not just highly organised, well funded. These people don't have to pay for their transport. They've got unions, they've got certain charities and organisations that fund their logistical movement. They fund their coaches. So all they have to do is put out on a Facebook group, be at this place at such and such a time, and we'll bus you down to London free of charge. And the same on the way back. So they don't have to worry about accommodation. They don't have to worry about transport, because they're down with free transport, and then they're back with free transport. They're in and they're out. This is something that the right wing of politics, the right, just can't replicate.
And that is a major issue, and it is one of the key reasons why you will see that what Restore Britain are doing with Great Yarmouth and then expanding it to Norfolk. There is some more stuff that I'll be doing in Norfolk about the English Constitution, but I can guarantee you, you could end up with a position, if they take control of every council seat in Great Yarmouth and start turning that place round and having an MP arguing for them in Parliament, you will start seeing the property prices increase. You will start seeing the streets cleared up. You will start seeing Great Yarmouth come back as an English coastal town that everyone wants to go to, because they will manage that place in the way it should be, the important part of this is the money coming in will be spent on that local area.
Because it isn't funded by unions. It doesn't have organisations and donors that fund its logistical movement. So you're already at a disadvantage in that regard. So you have to start deploying tactics when thinking about this. Right, we logistically, we can't move people around the country like the far left can, right? So if you have a big march down in London, you have to rely on numbers getting down there on their own. Given the fact that we're in a cost of living crisis, given the fact that petrol and everything else is extremely expensive now and people are struggling, can you justify asking people to come all the way down to London for an 8-hour march?
Just let me make sure I'm saying this. I spoke to a farmer the other day, 2 farmers in fact, when we were talking about the protests in London, which I attended, and they said we couldn't do it again. The price of diesel was far too high and it would cost us too much money, right? I've said to them, you need to be doing it a different way.
Might cost them probably £200 to £300 per person. If they come from up north, they might have to get overnight accommodation. Can you justify that? Because this is something you need to start to think about. Is there another way we can do this? Would it be a better logistical move or a tactical move to have massive protests up and down the country pushing a certain message, waking people up, rather than just one big march down in London? Because there are 2 advantages to that. If you have big marches up and down the country, you're going to be in a lot more people's faces because you're going to be in a lot more towns and cities rather than just one. You're also going to be splitting the numbers of the far left, because even though they've got logistical support, even though they can fund people getting all over the country, they can't send their little minority, because it is a minority. It only looks big when they're all together. If you can split that huge amount of them up all over the country, then their numbers count for nothing.
Now, I apologise. What happens is there's so many pages up. The Mac decides it's like a stack inside the memory. It gets to a certain point and it goes bump, right, and I have to reset the fucking thing. Right, let me make sure that we've pulled that back in. Right, and don't forget we've got our major event coming up. We've got an event coming up in Weston-super-Mare, which I'm going to show you again in a couple of minutes as well. But I want you what Vindicator is saying, and there's another one that he did that was really good as well, and I absolutely get what he was saying. I won't go into detail, but I used to be in the military, and close protection. This geezer's not a mug. I'll tell you that now. And just by listening to him, I didn't know any of what I learnt the other day by watching a video about him personally. But I can tell you now, before I knew all that, it was obvious this fellow was proper. He weren't a mug, right? Let me just see if I can push.
And fund people getting all over the country. They can't send their little minority, because it is a minority. It only looks big when they're all together. If you can split that huge amount of them up all over the country, then their numbers count for nothing. It's a tactical advantage. It's a good way of doing things. And you have to look, right, what exactly are you doing? What is the message that you're sending to people? What is the message? Because you say you're sending a message, but you don't particularly say what message you're sending. Because for the message to be sent, you have to have the attention of the mainstream media. Because that's the only way a massive march like that is going to send any sort of message. And we have to look at the mainstream media. We only have to look at what happened with the Yellow Vest March in Paris. Nobody ever really saw those marches on TV, even though they were massive. They were ignored because the globalist controlled media was able to control the narrative, because we don't have a free press in this country.
Right. Remember what I was saying about the free press and direct democracy earlier on? We've got the technology to do direct democracy now, but it's the press that are the problem. It's the mainstream media. But what he's just said there is absolutely bang on the money. I went on some of them big marches against COVID and lockdown and all that, right? It gives an opportunity for the state to attack us. They don't show anyone what's going on. They didn't on the last one. But really importantly, there was something else that was very good. One is with standing in the parks, so good that the standing in the parks were infiltrated by the left. And I know that because I was going around giving seminars at the standing in the parks about English constitutional rights and common law rights, and that your right to complete and full bodily autonomy, what the law was on coercion, etc. That's the first thing. But the group of people, and I hope they're watching now, were the people that went and done the rebels on roundabouts. More people become aware all over this country because of rebels on roundabouts, right? When they just stood there silently with their boards and their information, and people was driving around the road roundabouts. The police couldn't tell them to move on. They weren't doing anything wrong legally. And then people was looking at it and saying, yeah, you're absolutely right. But then all of a sudden, the community started to wake up. It was, in English terms, the hue and the cry, right? And them rebels on roundabouts, as an extension of standing in the parks, were the people that really got the message out there, right? And I just want to give them all a shout out. I was part of that. I think they're fantastic people. And what Vindicator is telling you there is absolutely bang on the money.
Massive protests like the one organised, like the United Kingdom March, rely on a free press to get their message out. We don't have a free press. So what's going to happen is you're going to be ignored by the mainstream media. Nobody is going to see this massive march on their TV in their living room. If anything, all they're going to see is the bits that the mainstream media want them to see. The bits where you get the odd person that's acting like an idiot, doing Nazi salutes, or drunk, disorderly, attacking police. So in reality, these marches can be detrimental. They can be used against you by the mainstream media, especially when you have a mainstream media that's hostile towards you. These are just some of the issues that I have with the United Kingdom March. Not to mention the fact that now we've had the first one, we can see what happened after it. And I'm not going to take any credit away from it, because the first one was absolutely massive. It was huge. But what did it actually achieve? The momentum wasn't capitalised on. It created a massive shockwave. It was talked about in the Houses of Parliament. But what was actually done with it? What did it do? You see, the Unite the Kingdom March shouldn't have been the end. It should have been the signal flare being sent up to people all around the country, and this should have been encouraged.
I'll tell you what, this geezer is so bang on the money.
To start protesting up and down the country, non-stop, with their own marches, to wake people up. But nothing was ever organised. Nothing was organised. Nothing was sent out. The momentum dissipated. The political clout that you had just went away. Wasn't used, wasn't capitalised on. So the effectiveness of that march, even though it was good, it gave people hope, it woke people up to a certain extent, its momentum dissipated. And you've got to think, right, who is your receiving audience for this message that you're supposedly sending out? Because the majority of people that you want to be sending the message out to are going to be with you on the march. So in reality, you're just going to be speaking to the choir. And the thing you should be doing is waking up the voters and telling them they need to get out and vote in the May elections. Telling them they need to get out and vote in the general election in 2029, if we have one. That should be the message. Yeah? But if you haven't got the ear of the mainstream media, and all you've got is online content creators like myself and others who, you know, tiny platform compared to the mainstream media. And it's no good getting your message out to an international audience because they're not the ones that you should be trying to convince. You need to convince the people that are sat at home on a Saturday afternoon watching the TV, watching the football matches. They're the people that you need to be convincing. And this is another advantage of having protests in every town and city, because everybody will hear about it, regardless of whether the mainstream media covers it or not. They will see it with their own eyes. Even though you've got a massive march, it can be hidden. We saw that with the Yellow Vest movement in Paris. A massive protest like that just hidden. We've seen protests all around the world that have been hidden. They've been huge. Never covered on the mainstream media. Because their ability is the revolution will not be televised. Because they're in control of it. And that's the issue. You need to change your tactics. These tactics simply are not working. Now, for whatever reason, you know, I can't say what your motivations are for why your tactics haven't changed. You know, you claim to want the country back, but your tactics haven't changed to try and get the country back. Now, with all that aside, saying all of that, the issues and everything like...
Let me just stop it there, right? Our strategy is the English Constitution and the enforcement of the English Constitution and the restoration of the English Constitution. Our tactics change as we see things move, right? But the actual strategy stays the same, right? And as long as, so when I look at people say to me, can I do this, Graham? Can I do that? And I say, think for yourself. If I see you do something that takes us away or is no benefit to the strategy, then I would say something to you. But if you're successful and you whatever you're doing tactically is still going towards the main strategy, I would say go forth and multiply, right?
Like that, the problems. I also have a personal issue with this movement, with this Unite the Kingdom march, because I've had interactions with people that have been organising this march. Now, I know that they aren't who they claim to be. I've seen this myself. I've seen their tactics. I've seen their underhanded tactics. I know that they've got nefarious reasons for doing this. I don't share their politics. And this is just one of the reasons why I won't be there. I don't share their politics. They seem to believe that just feeling that you're English makes you English. They've labelled me buzzwords like the far left would. I can't stand in a march with people who think that way of me, any more than I could vote for Reform UK after they called me that lot. I simply can't. I can't do it. I'd be a hypocrite. Now, Danny Tomo was saying, doesn't matter about all the infighting, doesn't matter about all, you need to come down and stand with us. No, we don't. No, I don't. You've in a passive, people that have organised your march in a passive aggressive way have called me that lot, smeared me. They've tried to destroy a political party that will give people hope, that will actually achieve something in this country if we all get behind it. And to me, a better use of resources wouldn't be having another Unite the Kingdom march. It would be for all the people to start getting behind Restore Britain, having Restore Britain stalls in their towns and cities up and down the country, handing out leaflets, talking about Rupert Lowe's policies, waking people up. A massive party down in London protesting an empty building, because that's who you're trying to protest against, is the MPs. They're not even going to be there. The Prime Minister's not even going to be there. You can just be ignored. So basically, you're just a big noise in a vacuum where nobody's going to hear you, nobody's going to see you. Like I said, the first march was okay because it was about networking. All these big marches are about networking. It introduces people to other people that think the same way as they do. And I can't take that away from it. That's a good thing. That makes people think they're not alone. And it's pride marching down that road with the flags. Got nothing against that. But when it comes to actual the effectiveness of the march, that's where I've got an issue. Because let's not kid ourselves. It has virtually no effect. The last march didn't change anything in this country. Keir Starmer is still in 10 Downing Street. People are still struggling with cost of living crisis. Fuel prices still rising. Energy prices still rising. What did it do? Nothing. It did nothing. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to say that we need to change tactics. We need to start waking people up properly, because the marches, the petitions, all that kind of stuff just don't work. Because when your enemy can ignore you, there's nothing. And they simply can't ignore you. They can just ignore what you're doing. And like I said, the marches themselves can be detrimental. They can be used against you if the wrong people attend. If you've got drunk people that start fighting with the police. Because let's not forget, right, this country is highly polarised at the minute. It would only take one spark to set things off. And then the march itself becomes the very thing that condemns everybody. Yeah? Anyway, they're just my thoughts on this. Let me know what your thoughts are below. If you're attending the march, what you think about it. And like I said, I've got nothing against anybody that's actually attending these marches. You know, if it's what you want to do, then you do it. I can't tell anybody what to do.
Yeah.
I can only give my thoughts and my personal experience, what I think about this and why I won't be going. But I don't hold it against anybody that's attending these marches or anything like that. If you want hope, if it makes you feel like you're doing something, then all power to you. I've got nothing against that whatsoever. But I just think it could be a better use of our resources and our time and our energy to actually do something that will achieve something, rather than having a big party down in London where the energy from that will just dissipate and nothing will ever come of it. Anyway, this is Vindicator, signing off.
Right, so the reason why I thought that was so important, he literally took the words out of my mouth. I couldn't have explained that better myself. He's a great guy. And I want everyone to understand what he's saying is absolutely true. I'm not having a pop at anyone. People send me emails and say, are you attending a march? Are you doing this? And we don't. Listen, this is what I'm doing, right? This is what we are doing. And we are having an effect, right? So I'm hopefully going to get back over to, because it's, I can't see my, where is it? What's up? There it is, right? So next Tuesday, and we've got to get this out as much as possible. I need you to help me, right? English Constitution Society, this is not political. This is about education. English Constitutional and Common Law Seminar. Discover your inalienable and constitutional rights, what they are, why they matter, and how the state is working to take them away. Find out what you can do to protect your freedoms before it's too late. Everyone is welcome. 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 7th of April 2026. Q Stoke Village Hall at Cooks Lane, Q Stoke, Western Supermare, BS22 9XS, £10 on the door, right? Now, there are people, like, that's not far from Bristol, right? Not that far from Bristol. You got people like Cole Benjamin, right, that could turn up there and say, hello, Graham, I've come to have a look or whatever and video it. He could do it if he wanted to, right? But they've all got this thing in their heads. Now, people need to understand that this is a tactic and a tactical change from the English Constitution Party. They can't stop us doing this, although they have shut down a number of our seminars. But why would they shut down a constitutional educational seminar? Why would they do it? If they didn't see it as some sort of threat to them, why don't they try and shut us down? So again, it's on the screen, English Constitution and Common Law Seminar. It's the English Constitution Society. Everyone is welcome, £10 on the door, or you can buy tickets if you go to the English Constitution Society.co.uk's website, right? Q Stoke Village Hall, right? Now, I need as many people to get there as possible. I am warning people, don't bring a load of paperwork and expect me to listen to your cases. That's not what these are about. These are about educating the audience, right? And people need to come up and say, what books do I want? What do I need to do? And I'll just go bing, bing, bing. If you take up all of my time with questioning about your own personal cases, it's a bit like being a doctor and a doctor turns up somewhere and then you want to stand there telling them all the symptoms you've got. It doesn't help everyone else, right? And I need to give an equal opportunity for people to say hello, etc. We've got members in Somerset, and it's a great place. And everyone needs to understand that we can push forward and keep pushing forward, right? So again, I'm just making sure everyone's got that. So get that information out there. I'm going to try and do that every night before we shut the show down. Let me go back. Now, there's something else I want to talk to you about. This is crucially important, and I'm hoping I can bring it up on the screen. And I'm going to tell you some of the story, and I hope to get the lady on board that will tell us everything, right, that you need to know. Now, this is in Liverpool, right? So, again, anyone in Liverpool and that is a Christian, you need to try and go along to this. All right, there is a website that tells you where it is. I'm going to try and find a website. If someone can send me the link to the website, it'd be helpful. 7 Churches, 1 Prayer. Right. This Easter Sunday, the Catholic and Christian communities of Liverpool will come together for a citywide rebirth of faith. Easter Sunday, 5th of April, 2026. And I believe that is at 1 p.m, maybe 12 p.m. It looks like it's been crossed out. At the following churches: St. Peter's Church, Walton, All Saints Church, Score Lane, Childwall, St. George's Church, I like that one, Haysworth Street, Everton, and Mosley Hill Church, Rose Lane, Mosley Hill, right? So Our Lady, and then it gives you the exact things where these are, right? Our Lady of Mount Carmel, 27 High Park Street, Toxteth, St. Oswald's Church, St. Oswald Street, Old Swan, St. Mary's the Virgin Church Lane, Walton, right? Now, there's more to this, and I'm going to show you what it is. Hopefully, I can bring that down a bit further and take you over to the next thing, which is this. Hopefully it's on there. The Great Rebirth of Christianity, preserving our faith for future generations, Liverpool and beyond. Over the past decade, Catholic and Christian communities have seen a steady decline in the practice and passing of our faith. That's because the state is against you. I'm not going to go into details politically, but also the Jesuits. The impact of this is now clear. Too many young people are growing up without faith, right? And I agree with this entirely. Purpose or direction, disconnected from community and meaning. This loss is reflected in rising crime, social disorder, and mental health struggles. While society has failed our youth in many ways, we must face a harder truth that we, as Christians, have also failed them. We have not consistently passed on the foundations of church life, like we haven't, and the Constitution of England and the common law is based on Christianity, right? Guide daily living and offer meaning beyond the material world. This responsibility rests not with others, but with our own generation. As people called by God, we have a duty to preserve, protect, and grow our faith. And we have a duty to preserve, protect, and grow England and the English, right? We are the final generation with a living connection to traditions that once built strong families, united communities, and faithful societies. If we fail to pass this inheritance on, then within 20 to 30 years, our faith risks being severely diminished. History teaches us a clear lesson. When one faith declines, another rises to take its place. And it could be communist, it could be Islam, it could be Satanism. Christianity remains the most widely followed faith in the world, yet only a small percentage actively practice and lead it. If this continues, its influence will fade. We now stand at crossroads and must ask ourselves, have we done enough to preserve and grow our faith? The closure and sale of churches alongside rising vandalism and arson, up to 100 churches set alight each year in the UK, show that we have not. And there's more I can say to that, right? For example, York Cathedral, which is crucial and important and is a separate constabulary altogether and a separate jurisdiction in law, believe it or not, is completely neglected by the British, and it's only maintained on donations, and it's falling apart, right? Yes, there is hope. If you are not currently practicing your faith, today is an invitation to begin again. Our churches need us. Our communities need unity. We must once again gather in our holiest places and rebuild the bonds that sustain us. Easter Sunday, a mass awakening. This Easter Sunday, the Catholic and Christian communities of Liverpool will come together for a citywide rebirth of faith. Liverpool, one of England's most faith-rooted cities, carries a unique spiritual heritage built upon 7 hills like Jerusalem. It has been chosen for this moment of renewal. On Easter Sunday, large groups will gather on each of the 7 hills, praying simultaneously, celebrating joyful and uniting as one community. This will mark a rebirth of Christianity. One our city and our youth are deeply longing for. We have forgotten what it truly means to be a community, to stand together, support one another, and to love our neighbour. By returning to our local churches, healing can begin, spiritually, socially, and collectively. Now more than ever, we need the youth to stand with us so our faith can be passed on to the generations yet unborn. This work requires commitment, discipline, and unity, but we will not allow our faith to be dissolved. The project has begun. Walk this journey with us. And I just want to make sure everyone understands this. And there is a website for this, I believe. I'm hoping I've got that website somewhere. And people need to understand where this is coming from. I'm trying to kick this key element. There it is. Right. Let me come off of that. Stop sharing a sec. It's important to understand one thing. every journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single footstep. And when you listen to Vindicator, when you listen to me, when you listen to Dino Bane, when you listen to all of these people, including Andy the Gabby Cabby, there are people coming together and pushing forward and saying, listen, we have a Christian nation and we need to save our nation for the future generations. And legally and lawfully, that is what we've got. I'm just going to make sure. I'm not sure if I can find. So the website is at bottom of page 2. All right, I've got it. Right, so I'm going to try and bring that up on your screen again to show you. So there's a telephone number and a website, right, for everyone to be able to read this and look at it and get involved, right? So if anyone can type that in, I'm not sure if that's. Let me see if I can bring that up again for you, right? So it's on the screen as we speak. Let me see if I can bring it up. Can everyone see that? So you should be able to pause the video, get involved. WhatsApp 07836 539 835. Visit our website at Liverpool 7 holyhills.replit or follow us on X Liverpool L7 Hills, right? So I am going to now go to Liverpool L7 Hills and see if I can find this for you. So it should still be on the screen. Liverpool. I like Liverpool. I like the women. I like the accent. They do something to me. I shouldn't be talking about it. I'm talking about Christianity. Behave yourself, Graham. All right, I'll behave, right? And they've only got 7 followers, right? So I've just started following them. I've given them a little tick mark there. And I'll put this information out there. So go and give them a follow, because I'm sure they will love the fact that you're going to follow them, right? So I'll put that out there for everyone to go and have a look. There it is, right? I've put that information. You click on that, give them a follow on Twitter. That's Easter Sunday, I believe. And again, this is a fantastic group of people. They are really trying hard. And here's the kicker, right? Let me share this tab instead, right? Let me just tell you something that happened. They went to one of these churches, and the vicar said to them, I've been told that I can't have anything to do with you because you're a listen, they're proper, they're what I describe as real Christians, right? I've been told that the archdeacon has told me you're far right. That is extremely unchristian, right? And it shows the infiltration of our churches. So these events are being held on the grounds of the church, not in the church, right? And true Christians and Christianity, the people are the church, not the building. But one of these, an archdeacon, I believe of the Protestant faith, right, has basically said that they're far right. They're connected to UKIP, right? Well, I've got no connection to UKIP anymore whatsoever, right? But the point being, Christianity in this country is under attack, right? So just to make sure everyone understands that. Are you all? So if anyone's on, if anyone is on Twitter who's on here now, can you go to Twitter, click on that and follow them, right? And let's see if we can get them, I don't know, 100 or 200 followers tonight, and express to people that this is a Christian group that is being neither promoted, they've been going out handing. This is a genuinely Christian thing to do, right? And I just want to make sure all up top of fake Christians. No, I agree. They're just in it for the money. They're not Christians whatsoever. In fact, I would consider them to be narcissists and dark personality, psychopaths, narcissists. You can prove that by looking at even the Catholic religion. I'm not having a pop at Catholics. I'm just telling you that the Jesuits have protected Jimmy Savile, because whilst his knighthood was removed in England, the knighthood that he was given by the Vatican stays in place and is still in place, right? Just to let you all know that. So there it is. There is the information. These events are being held on the grounds of the church, and the prayers will be heard on the grounds of the church, but not, and I repeat, not in the churches themselves. So they'll have their own little communities inside the churches. But again, Christianity is under attack, where they start to describe us as far right, or real Christians as far right. Anyone who creates their own church in their own home, I applaud that as an action of faith. That's it. So everyone got that information out there. Paedophiles and SRA monsters to the core. Yeah, they are. So don't forget, sharing is caring. Hit the share button, hit the like button. Don't forget, we have got the seminar in Weston-super-Mare on Tuesday evening. Someone is allegedly coming to me to assist me with putting stuff in my car because I've got a bad back. I might have to, I will be taking codeine. So if I'm a bit that night, hopefully I'm not, and my back will be fine. That's it. But I am just letting everyone know there's plenty of people out there with the right tactics and the right way forward. I don't want to give any discredit towards Restore Britain whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, it's Restore England and it's Restore the English Constitution, and we will get our proper governance back. The only thing I'm concerned with, and it is not a slur upon the team of Restore Britain or Rupert Lowe himself, but remember, if you read the English Bill of Rights, which most judges haven't, most solicitors haven't, most lawyers haven't, the original English Bill of Rights, it tells you clearly that the king was counselled by evil people that had misinstructed him. And that is what we've got with the slow march through the institutions. So if someone is a product of the slow march through the institution and they are misinstructing, some of it is malicious and deliberate, and some of it is not. It is pure ignorance. But they are not learned people. I fail to see how anyone can be regarded as learned if they've never been fully instructed on the English Constitution, on the claim of right for Scotland, which basically means that Scotland has the English Bill of Rights as well. And bear in mind that these books are all telling me the same thing. The reason why we have these rights is we had these rights before Roman law was implemented in this country. The Romans tried to impose their laws upon us and we did not accept them. The English are a nation and it is a high trust, but we are warriors, right? And that's the difference with us. But it is the Roman law system that is the problem in Europe. It's the administrative system of law that is the problem. The common law of England and the Constitution is God's law, right? And once people understand that, and again, I will be going through some of them things and showing people what I mean by that. That's it. I am going to say good night. God bless to everyone. I hope you have enjoyed tonight's show. I've put a few bits up there from the Vindicator and from Andy the Gabby Cabby and from Restore, etc. Wilsey, if you're watching, because I know you occasionally watch some. Right. Everyone just keep doing what they're doing. We're moving in the right direction. And I absolutely agree. There are certain issues and certain people that I do not trust out there at all, right? I do trust Rupert Lowe. I trust his team. I do not trust his counsellors. and that's the truth. I'm not here to say anything other than that. So don't forget, come along too. And let me just bring it up one more time because it is important. I'll close the show with it on there. We want to make sure that everyone does this. Let me have a look and see if I can find it again. I bet I can't find it. Where is he? Come on, son. Where you gone? There he is. That's the easiest one for me to bring on the screen. Right, so I'm going to bring that on the screen, and I'll close this. I'll close the screen down with that on the screen. Right, so you have got that on there. Let's see if I can bring that down a touch. So everyone should understand that is in Weston-super-Mare next Tuesday, 7th of April, 2026, 7 o'clock. Come along and I will give a brief overview of our constitution, what your constitutional rights are. It's not going to be a long one, but it is quite local, obviously, for people in Somerset, Weston-super-Mare. And we want to be doing these all over the country. If we can get up to one a week, we are doing far more than any demonstration in London, because you only need, out of every 100 people, 5 people, and there is a statistical, we're getting there, right? And I can see it and I can feel it, and more people are talking about the English Constitution. That's it. Good night and God bless, and I will see you tomorrow evening at 8 p.m.